Hey, it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We are zooming in and we are focusing in on a wonderful viewer question that we got in, and that was to look into the prevalence of feeling so separate or almost adopted from a covert narcissist. In other words, this person feels so separate, so disjointed, so distant from them. Even though this is a family member, they feel like they are adopted. They feel like they're not really connected. They don't feel like they're of the same bloodline. They feel that there's no legacy, there's no connection. There's that unspoken bond, which is usually in families is really sort of distinct or just not even prevalent. It's very faint. And so hence there's this feeling of almost feeling adopted, not feeling part of the family. And this is a very interesting concept because when we think about a narcissist, particularly that of a covert narcissist, they are so reserved, they're so shut down, their face is so intact, but it's their face, meaning their facade, is so intact. The way that they conceal their emotions, their feelings, especially the negative feelings, as well as the positive, are so under lock and key. It's so under Fort Knox. It's so concealed over. There's so much deception. There's so much that's behind the mask that you never really kind of know or feel the presence of this person in terms of their true, authentic, genuine self, their true feelings, really who they truly are underneath in terms of the aliveness, sort of the true positive or negative or feelings, or even kind of the pattern of emotions. It's so concealed. It's so under so many layers. There's so many just things that are repressed. There's so many emotions that are repressed that really, even if in your family you don't feel the presence of that genuine connection, you don't feel that presence of like, you are my son, you are my daughter, you are my wife. You don't feel that unspoken bond. You don't feel that connection. And it feels as if this person is in a play, an act, a theater, or playing a role versus being the role. And so I think it's because oftentimes there's this very distinct feeling of inadequacy within the mindset, or really I would say the defense mechanisms of the covert narcissist, that they are inadequate, that they can't own up to the real role. They can't take ownership. They can't take accountability. They don't see the expansive part of their identity there. They might be a father, but they don't really kind of resonate to the feeling of father. They don't feel that. They don't own it. They're not allowed to be there in a full present way. Even oftentimes in the role of a parent or a spouse, they don't feel that connection out loud. They can't live it out loud. They're kind of acting according to what they think they should be doing, but underneath, there's this feeling of I cannot be all that. I'm not all that, so I need to subjugate part of my own real identity and put it, somewhere else, in another place of me, in another part of me, in another time of me, which is kind of like there, but that they just kind of create in their own world. And then they develop this in a very sort of self-absorbed manner where they splice themselves off, edit their life off, and then they're really kind of in touch with their own feelings, but in a very reserved, shut out way. So this covert narcissist, if you're in a close relationship with them or in proximity with them, they're very much needing their quiet time, their away time, their personal space, which the introvert, generally needs to recharge. They need that quiet time. They need that aloneness. But the issue that really presents the problem with the covert narcissist is that they are, in a fantasy world, or in a sort of separate world where, they are not going to give you what they need. They're not going to show you the love. They're not going to own up and be that person there. They're not, they have a facade for the role. They don't have a genuine connection with the role. So this creates this feeling of almost feeling adopted, feeling like you're not in this bloodline. You're not in you're not in the presence of your real parent. You're not in the presence of a real spouse. You're not in the presence of a real brother or sibling. You're in the presence of a facade of that, or what they think that they should be. So they're not able to act that fully. So there's really a feeling of a void. There's the feeling of that there's something missing, and there's a feeling that you can't really share. You can't really connect with this person very thoroughly, in a very entire manner. In other words, and one part of truly being happy is being able to be yourself without editing, without feeling like you're walking on eggshells, or that you're going to set somebody off, or being invalidated. And so part of this comes with really a feeling of being invalidated and not being validated, that you have these needs, you are this person, you are this role. I understand, and I'm mature enough, I'm secure enough within my own self to see what you need. In other words, my role as a father, my role as a mother, my role as a sibling, my role as a boss, as a spouse. They're not able to kind of open up that inner heart channel and combine it with the intellect and then the empathy to really understand that. So they're not able to be all of that. And so hence you might feel this way of disconnect, or being adopted, or not really being acknowledged fully in an energetic way who you are and how the relationship is supposed to be in this relationship. And so I found that a very poignant question, and it helps explain a lot why oftentimes it is the empathy deficit, as well as the needing to be self-absorbed, to be able to have that retreat, to have that recess, to be able to become aloof and basically disconnect from everything. That is how the covert narcissist, that is their personality construct. And so, of course, and then, just my notes to that is that how important it is for you to be validated as as who you are in that relationship. So you are my sister, you are my brother, you are my father, you are my mother. So you almost times don't feel you are my wife, you are my husband. You almost don't feel this acknowledgement, this validation. So it's very kind of like you almost feel like you don't know this person, or furthermore, this person, I think for those of you who are watching, who are kind of the survivors of this experience and the thrivers now, is that you feel that you have not been validated as such. So in other words, I don't feel validated as a sibling. I don't feel validated as a spouse. I don't feel validated as a son or daughter. In this way, and to be validated, which means like you were here, you experienced this, you went through this, this is the amount of time, and this is what you experienced, and this was the outcome, and we get it. Like, boom, stamp, we validate you for that. Like, we hear you, we acknowledge you, we get it, and either we own up to it or we apologize. So oftentimes, I think, most people, because of this very covert, concealed injury, or what is inflicted over time, and not like a I beat you up manner, but there's physical wounding, or emotional wounding, emotional bruising, emotional neglect, which creates a whole lack of development, or lack of comfort, or lack of life, in a specific part of you. Part of you is feeling like you have not lived. You have not lived as in this role as it relates to this person, and it's because of the lack of validation in this person's their self-absorption. They're not able to give it to you in that way. You're not able to live on all cylinders. I kind of liken it to cylinders for some reason, kind of like a car. You're not like firing on all cylinders with this person. You're not able to. So if you have felt this sort of feeling of being adopted or invalidated, or feeling separate from, oftentimes it's because of the sheer lack of empathy that is required in relationships to be able to be secure enough to hear what another person needs from, quote unquote, that, the narcissist in the role, and for them to validate, acknowledge it, and say, okay, yes, this is my job. This is not someone else's job. It's like the old experience when you go to a store, Or, you call someone, that's not my job, let me get you over to someone who does. And then they're like, that's not my job. It's kind of like they're not able to say, that's part of my relationship description. They can't do it. They feel it's not their place. And even though it might be their place, they're going to say, it is not my place. And you're not going to get that validation. You're not going to get that connection with a covert narcissist. It's peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.